Dear viewer, Hamid sentences 7 hostages to slavery. 5 men clean toilets, 3 women livestock, working 16 hours a day. They regret rejecting Charlie. In Lebanon, Chester reports to Zhongquan about Charlie's actions. Zhongquan is shocked. Charlie and Melba arrive in Ors Hill and stay at the Shangrila. Charlie suspects that his next-door neighbor, Zinn Su, is arranging a meeting with Ito. He orders Isaac to prepare a signal jammer to trap Su. Enjoy the great story. Thank you.
Chapter 2686. Hamid's words made these 7 so-called princes of heaven struck by lightning, and felt that the whole world collapsed at this moment. The purpose of their documentary filming in Syria is very different from that of Melba. They don't really have the world in their hearts, and they don't really sympathize with the people suffering in the war. They just hope to give themselves a more powerful resume and let themselves get more growth capital in the hypocritical upper class in the West. Later, when they got a part-time job in the upper-class society, at the high-end reception, everyone scrambled and exchanged cups. They would laugh and talk about the fact that they had made a documentary on the battlefield in Syria for the sake of anti-war, will surely trigger a large crowd of praise around. At that time, it will not only make the head and boss have a better impression of them, but also make the dignitaries admire them. It is definitely a good qualification that can last a lifetime. However, they never dreamed that they would come to Syria to brush a copy of their qualifications, and they would take them in for the rest of their lives. When they thought of staying in this ghost place all their lives as slaves in the future, these 7 people, without exception, were all wailing. Weeping. When Hamid saw the 7 people crying and crying, he asked coldly, "Why cry? When you came to Syria, you never thought there would be such a day." Among the 7, one kid cried and said, "We just want to refresh our qualifications. I didn't expect it to be so dangerous. Commander Hamid, please let us go. We can also read and study. We can't do anything else. You can leave us 7. It's a cumbersome thing to keep us here." Others also cried and pleaded. For them, as long as there is a chance, they must fight for it with all their strength. However, Hamid did not give them any hope at all. He said coldly, "From tomorrow, all of you men will go to dig out the toilets, and all the women will go to herding cattle and sheep. You will work 16 hours a day. At that time, I will arrange for someone to follow you. If anyone dares to be lazy, I will fine him for 3 days. She in that case can't eat. If anyone wants to escape, I will break his legs and let him crawl to get to the toilet." The conditions in the village where Hamid is stationed are very difficult. There used to be an electricity supply, but since the beginning of the civil war, it has been unable to supply electricity. Here, there is no electricity, no communication, no running water, and no sewer. Therefore, the people of the entire village, as well as the soldiers of Hamid, all settled in the dry toilet. 1 to 2,000 people have a very large amount of defecation every day. The soldiers originally took turns cleaning the toilets and transporting the filth out of the village, but no matter who was allowed to do this kind of thing, it was inevitable that there would be complaints. Therefore, Hamid hardly thought about it and arranged these 5 men to clean the toilet and dump the filth. As long as the 5 men were squeezed to the extreme, his soldiers would no longer have to do such dirty work. After listening to these 5 people, they almost have the desire to die. Thinking of handling the feces of 1 or 2,000 people every day and cleaning the toilets they used, these 5 people feel that their lives are all over. Because Hamid said that they should stay here as slaves for a lifetime, and they will not be able to leave until they die. This means that as long as they are alive, they have only this job of cleaning the toilets and dumping filth every day. Repeatedly, without end. Is there anything more tragic than this for a lifetime? Several people couldn't help thinking of Charlie, and they hated him and regretted it in their hearts. Knowing that Charlie had the ability to take them out, why bother to pretend to be something in front of him? If they were respectful to him just now, they might have followed Charlie to leave Syria, out of this hell. Seeing that these people were about to collapse, Hamid was too lazy to look at them again and told the soldiers around him, "Let them get up at 5:30 in the morning and start work at 6 after the meal, and take a half-hour break at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Rest for half an hour at 6 o'clock, and then work until 11 o'clock in the evening. Do you understand?" Several of his men nodded immediately. "Understand the commander." After listening to the 7, they almost wanted to hit and die here. Every day. Work for 16 hours, take 3 meals for another 1.5 hours, and the rest time is only 6.5 hours, which does not count as washing, dressing, going to the toilet, etc., so they can take 5 or 6 breaks a day. Thank God for being young. Although this group of people does not have a wealthy family background, at least their family conditions can be counted as petty bourgeoisie. They have never had any hardships since they were young, and they have not been tired. The high-intensity squeeze, just hearing it, was already scared to death. However, Hamid had no mercy on them. After the order, he turned and left. At the same time, in Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, Chester was in the same distance as Zhongquan Wade, the old man of the Wade family, was connected. In the video call, Chester respectfully told how the master parachuted alone to rescue Melba, and was sent out by Hamid himself, and reported to Zhongquan all about it. After Zhongquan listened, the whole person was shocked. There is nothing to add. He asked with a dull expression, Charlie really has such an ability. A person parachuted to the opposition station alone, and he brought the person out safely. Chester respectfully said, yes master, it is true. At that time, the height of the young master's parachuting was more than 5,000 meters, and the height of the parachute opening was much lower than the height of the safe level. Even the Russian Special Forces coach Vasily said that at that height to open the umbrella, people can never live, but I didn't expect that the young master would have no problem at all. Zhongquan couldn't help but exclaimed, I've heard people say that Charlie is a true dragon on earth by many people in Oris Hill. I originally thought it's just an exaggeration. I didn't expect that he really has such a great ability. Could Charlie practice martial arts? Chester seriously said, Master, I don't think even a master of martial arts, there is not necessarily such skill as the master has, ordinary people will be crushed immediately under him in no time. The height, for the young master, is completely easy. Zhongquan asked again, then, do you know how he rescued Melba alone? Oh, right, you just said that Hamid personally sent him to the rendezvous point with Melba to join you. I want to know, why did Hamid give Charlie respect so much? Isn't he the commander of the armed forces? It stands to reason that Charlie goes to save his hostage, he should take Charlie as an enemy. How could he send it off in person? Could it be that Charlie was kidnapped? Chester didn't expect that the old man asked so many questions in one breath, and hurriedly explained one by one. Return to master. The young master's process of saving people was not shared with us, so I don't know what method he used to rescue Melba, but why Hamid gave the young master so much face. I didn't want to understand this, and Hamid is not just to give a face to the young master. He is even worthy of the young master brothers. In his words, he is very respectful to the young master, so I don't know whether the young master kidnapped him. I am afraid that only the young master himself knows that. Zhongquan listened, and couldn't help sighing, unbelievable, unbelievable. I was even ready to spend money to redeem him, but I didn't expect it to be such an unbelievable ending. After that, he couldn't hide his excitement and said, it seems that my Wade family really came out this time. There is a real dragon in the world. When the sky in Oris Hill just turned white, the Concorde airliner that Charlie and Melba took finally landed at the airport. After the plane landed, Charlie, Melba, and Isaac took the helicopter arranged by Isaac and flew directly to Shangrila. When the plane just started, Charlie asked Melba's opinion and asked her if she would like to meet with Pollard immediately. If she wanted, he could directly call Pollard using the satellite phone on the plane and tell him that Melba was already there. The news of his rescue made him meet with Melba at the airport as soon as possible. However, after careful consideration, Melba feels that her whole spirit is relatively decadent, and she wants to take a break, at least take a bath and change her body to dry clean clothes, then will meet her father. So Charlie decided to take her to Shangrila to settle down first, and then give her a few hours to rest. When her condition is almost adjusted, he will go to Oris Hill University of Finance and Economics and give Pollard one big surprise. As for Charlie himself, he did not expect that this time to save Melba, it only took more than 10 hours before and after. Originally, he told his wife about going out of town. If he returned home early in the morning, it seemed a little weird, so he planned to also go to Shangrila and let Isaac arrange a room for him to rest and sleep. Last night in Syria, he used aura as a psychological suggestion, so that the aura in his body was already extremely scarce, which really made him felt a little tired. By the time of sunrise, Charlie's helicopter had landed at Shangrila. After getting off the plane, Charlie directly said to Isaac, "Old man, arrange one room for Miss Watt and one room for me, both of us need to take a rest. In addition, you have to toss about it all night. Go back to your office and have a good rest." Isaac hurriedly said, "Okay, young master." After that, immediately ask his subordinates next to him, "Has the presidential suite gone out? If haven't, take young master there to take rest." The other party immediately replied, "Mr. Isaac, our presidential suite was booked by Mr. Ito from Japan, don't you remember?" Isaac patted his forehead and blamed himself, "Look at my pig brain. After all, he was right again." Charlie said, "Master, the entire East District where the presidential suite is located has been rented by Ito Uehiko, or you can go to the executive suite in the West District to take a rest." Charlie frowned and said, "Don't Jiu and her mother live there, in Ruoli? To be on the safe side, I still don't go there, lest there be any monsters, just arrange one for me. Normal rooms are fine." Isaac hurriedly said, "Then I will arrange for you and Miss Watt to live in the luxurious suite on the second top floor for the time being." Charlie nodded slightly, "Okay." Soon, the staff prepared 2 suite cards, and they gave Charlie and Melba opened 2 luxury suites on the second top floor. The door of the 2 rooms was opposite, and there was only one passage. Isaac personally escorted them to the door of the room. Charlie said to Melba before swiping his card to enter the door, "Miss Watt, first take a good rest. It's just after 6 o'clock. Let's tentatively schedule lunch at 12:30. After having a meal, I will send you to the university." Quote. Melba nodded lightly and said gratefully, "Thank you, Mr. Wade." Charlie waved his hand, "Do not be polite with me, after all, there are dealings in the fight." Melba replied and said, "Mr. Wade, then I will go to rest in advance." Charlie nodded, "See you." Melba looked at Isaac on the side again and said gratefully, "Mr. Isaac, thank you too." Isaac said without hesitation, "Miss Watt is too polite, this is what I should do." Seeing Melba entered the room, Charlie opened the door of his room. Isaac saw that they both returned to the room to rest, so he immediately returned to his office. Charlie entered the room. The first thing was to lock the door, then took off all his clothes, stepped into the bathroom, and took a cold shower. After washing himself clean, Charlie sat on the bed, feeling the spiritual energy in his body, and seeing that the spiritual energy was almost exhausted, his heart was also very painful. In the beginning, he discovered the existence of spiritual energy in the piece of peace and wealth that he bought from Irvin. It's a pity that the aura in that stone has been absorbed cleanly by him. Since then, although he has seen many treasures of heaven and earth, he has never encountered anything that contains aura. Moreover, among the high-rise buildings in this city, there is almost no trace of aura, and it takes at least a few months to add to it. This also gave him a sense of crisis in his heart. Aura is fast to use, but it is far from easy to accumulate. If there is no lasting and effective way to replenish aura, I am afraid that it will be difficult in the future for him. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but recall the content of the 9 Profound Sky Classics in his mind. In the 9 Profound Heavenly Classics, a higher level pill than the rejuvenating pill is recorded, named Peiyuan pill. Regardless of the name of Peiyuan pill, it seems that it is not as arrogant as the other pill, but this kind of pill is directly higher than it. Rejuvenation pills can make ordinary people live longer and resurrect from the dead, but they do not contain aura. After all, aura is the most refined and pure energy between heaven and earth. It is the most powerful kind of power. Rejuvenation pills are far from being able to catalyze aura. To the point. However, this Peiyuan pill is a pill that truly contains aura. Although it is the most basic entry level among the pill containing spiritual energy, the materials it needs are, without exception, all extremely rare treasures. Among them, the most demanding ones are Ganoderma lucidum that needs at least more than 1,000 years, snow ginseng for more than 1,000 years, and ambergris that is more than 10,000 years old. Don't know if the Millennium Ganoderma is easy to find, but Charlie has 1,000-year-old snow ginseng. In the beginning, Liang was shunned by his biological father and half-brother in the family. In order to gain a foothold in the Wei family, he passed his mother's treasure to him. He gave 1,000-year-old snow ginseng to Charlie, and he kept the snow ginseng without using. However, ambergris, which has been more than 10,000 years old, is indeed too rare. As we all know, ambergris is the secretion of dollar perm whales. It is the best raw material for spices, and it is also a blind medicinal material. Simply buying ambergris is not a problem, you can buy it if you have money. However, buying old ambergris is almost like dreaming. Because the dollar perm whale itself does not have a lifespan of 10,000 years. The longest lifespan is 70 years, which is remarkable. According to this time, the 10,000-year ambergris must be the dollar perm whale that died 10,000 years ago. It has grown before death. The history of humans' known civilization is not as long as 10,000 years. Where can he find a secretion left in the body of a dollar perm whale 10,000 years ago? Charlie couldn't help but get up again when he thought of this. Such a difficult preparation can only refine the first level or a pill. Wouldn't it be even more impossible to refine a higher level or a pill? Thinking of this, Charlie couldn't help sighing, and thought to himself, maybe I need to say hello to Qin Gang. He has been doing medicine business. 1,000 years of ambergris perhaps cannot find, but 1,000 years of Ganoderma should still be no problem. Like ambergris, you can then slowly look around. So, he immediately sent Qin Gang a WeChat message and asked him to try to find these two things. Qin Gang quickly replied, Master, the Millennium Ganoderma is very easy to find. I know a Hong Kong medicinal material dealer, and he collects it. There are many old-year medicinal materials. 1,000-year Ganoderma lucidum, Centennial tangerine peel, and Centennial puer are all in stock. Although the price is high, if the 1,000-year Ganoderma is sold per gram, it costs tens of thousands of dollars per gram. As for ambergris, they are often sold, but most of them are of relatively ordinary quality. The best one I remember is a white ambergris with 1,000 years of history that was auctioned at Sotheby's a few years ago. However, I have made medicinal herbs for so many years. I have never heard of it that old. Charlie didn't feel disappointed after hearing it. He smiled slightly and said, Then you can help me get the Millennium Ganoderma lucidum. For ambergris, you can help me pay attention. No problem. Qin Gang agreed without hesitation. Charlie thanked him, but didn't continue to communicate with him. Just as he was about to rest, someone rang the doorbell of the next room. Zinn, wrapped in his nightgown, saw that it was his own subordinate, and opened the door to let the other person in. After the other party came in, he whispered, Master, I've heard that Ito Takehiko's men have reserved the Kiharu Lake Golf Course, which is 5 kilometers away. Ito Takehiko may go to the golf course to play golf at around 9 o'clock. See if you have prepared in advance. Then, go there quietly to meet him. Zinn said excitedly, the golf course. Great. It just happened to avoid Shangrila. It's a great opportunity to meet Ito Takehiko quietly. Zinn, who was so excited, couldn't imagine that Charlie was next door to him at this time. The luxury suites of Shangrila are very uniform in design. The overall layout is a square field shape. The 2 rooms on the left are the living room and the study, and the 2 rooms on the right are the bathroom and the bedroom. In other words, the bedroom where Charlie was located happened to be next to Zinn's study. Under normal circumstances, the rooms of a 5-star hotel will be silenced and soundproofed to ensure the quietness, privacy, and comfort of the guests. Therefore, even if it is separated by a wall, ordinary people cannot hear the conversation next door. But for a person like Charlie with extremely sensitive senses, just such a wall is really a little useless. Therefore, even if he had no intention of eavesdropping on the conversations of the people next door, he still didn't say a word, and he heard the movement of Zinn's room clearly. However, even at this moment, Charlie didn't know who the next door was. Because Zinn's subordinates called him the master, it was impossible for Charlie to infer the identity of Zinn just by using the word master. However, he heard the words Ito Takehiko clearly. He heard that the person next door actually wanted to meet Ito Takehiko, and he was suddenly curious. Ito Takehiko came to Oris Hill in a relatively low-key manner. In fact, the outside world didn't know it. In addition, he stayed at Wade's hotel, and there was no leakage of check-in information. Therefore, in this case, the person who can find Ito Takehiko's whereabouts must have a very difficult background. So, he immediately sent a text message to Isik, asking him to do everything possible to find out who was living in the next room, and at the same time, he must not be surprised. Isik was just resting in the office for a while, and suddenly received Charlie's WeChat, and immediately realized that there might be a serious situation, and then he hurriedly got up and turned on the computer and checked the information of the guest staying in the room next to Charlie with his own authority. The check-in information shows that Charlie staying next door is just an ordinary person without any special identity. So, he immediately replied to Charlie, "Master, the person you asked me to check is a middle-aged person from Yuzhou. From the information, there is no special place, no case, no background." Charlie frowned and asked him, "Can you find out the company of this person?" Isik manipulated in front of the computer and said, "I can't find out for the time being. There is no work unit in his file. It may be a self-employed person, or he may be working in a relatively small private enterprise." Charlie asked again, "Can you find out if he has paid Social Security?" Isik thought for a while, and said, "I have a relatively secret channel. Can find this information." Charlie said, "Then you can check for me now, whether he has paid Social Security, and if so, which company is paying him." "Okay." Isik hurriedly started to inquire and checked for a long time. After that, he said to Charlie, "Master, I found out that he does have Social Security, and the Social Security base is very high. The company that paid him Social Security is a local financial investment company in Yuzhou." Charlie continued, "The background of this company. Check out the equity structure behind it." "Okay." Isik continued to inquire according to Charlie's instructions. While checking, he said, "Master, I see that this company is wholly owned by another technology company in Yuzhou. Behind the company, there is an investment fund and a partnership enterprise. This investment fund is Eastcliff SW Capital or Southwest Capital." Charlie asked him curiously, "SW Capital? Whose family?" Isik hurriedly said, "SW Capital, that's one of the many capital-operated companies of the Su family." "Su? The Su family?" Charlie frowned, and said, "I heard someone next door calling another person called Master. So, maybe the old dog that lives next door to me is Chungfeng." "This," Isik said with some disbelief, "Master, shouldn't Chungfeng come to Oris Hill by himself?" Charlie laughed, "If it isn't Chungfeng, it might be Zinn." "Zinn?" Isik couldn't help but said, "Even if this guy wants to take the opportunity to get close to Ito Takehiko, he shouldn't sneak to Shangrila." Isik sneered, "This is the place where his brilliant Oris Hill has always been a sphere of influence for Wade's family. Since he was bound to come to Oris Hill, he well thought out the plan, like him who believe in a lamp black. The truth, you should know that the oil lamp that was lit in ancient times was placed on the table, just like a candle. After the lamp is lit, although it can illuminate the entire room, it does not illuminate the small area under itself. So this small area, although away from the lamp recently, but the room has become the darkest, most hidden places he picks to live as Shangrila, is the bet we think he could have done such a thing. This is the surprise." With that said, Charlie said again, "If it weren't for my hearing, which is a lot better than the average person, I wouldn't be able to detect it. If even I couldn't detect it, it would be even more impossible for you and your subordinates to detect it. So from this point of view, he was relatively successful in doing this, and he really used his mind." Isik hurriedly asked, "Master, if it is really Zinn, what should we do?" Charlie sneered, "Whether he is Zinn, he is a member of the Su family. Since it is the Su family, then it's like a sheep's mouth. If I don't gnaw him off, wouldn't I be sorry for the Su family's aggressive and daring maneuvers?" After speaking, he immediately ordered, "The person who arranges you immediately, in the room directly below this room, put a signal jammer, but don't turn it on for the time being. In addition, you have to be prepared and listen to my orders. When you start the jammer, cut off the surveillance video on my floor at the same time, understand?" Isik said without hesitation, "Okay young master, I understand." At this moment, in the next room, Zinn sent his men away, and took a shower by himself in the bathroom. After the shower, he wrapped his bathrobe and stood in front of the mirror carefully. Using hairspray to put his hair back to the back of his head, he had already begun to figure out how to get Ito to agree to cooperate with the Su family. This time, the Su family was suspended from the ocean shipping license. The impact was too great and the loss of income was serious. Forget it, a large number of ships cannot be started. Daily maintenance costs, depreciation costs, and lease costs are an astronomical figure. In addition, there are still a large number of seafarers and employees who need to be fed. The daily loss is calculated as 100 million. For Zinn, this is his first turnaround since he returned from Australia. Only if he wins this battle can he let the old man look at him with admiration and win back his old man's appreciation of himself. So, to him, the significance is very significant. Even he can successfully inherit the position of Su family patriarch, and all the family assets in the future will be under his hand, and he will have to look at the success or failure of all of it.